Sabhaya Namaha. We are having much faith on God because we are all followers of our tradition and culture and civilization. Because only in India we believe all Shastras because it was derived from the ancient sages. Worthwhile, each and every Shastra is worthwhile. When we come to especially astrology, so many sages expressed their views and commanded the duties of the planets which acts on a person according to his birth chart. These are all entirely trustworthy. Nowadays, people used to say astrology is a fake. I think it is wrong. Astrology is always original, good, trustworthy. But he who studies well and says according to the movements of the planets is accurately true. But the people who are just going through the books and telling the results, it goes in a fake. How can we say astrology is fake? Some media is to shout and display astrology is fake, Jyotisham Mudanam. It's wrong. According to astrologers, we are seeing the solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, accurate time, date, year, everything. How it happens? Because of the calculations of the stars and planets, is it not? So, unnecessarily basing on fake astrologers, those who are taking this subject for their livelihood and earning money makes the people into confusion. In such a way, we have to say astrologers are fake astrologers, but not astrology. How can astrology become fake? If you go through the subject, definitely there won't be any untruth systems in planets and its movements. That's why we need not blindly believe the astrologers who are taking aids for their livelihood. They themselves put their title Vastu Simha, Jyotisharatna like this. The ancient astrologers, they never do like this. They never did like this. Moreover, you see, astrologer means after sunrise, before sunset, he has to conclude. If he is the original astrologer. But nowadays, you see, even in after sunset, even in midnight, they used to calculate and say, how can it possible? All the astrology based on the sun god. In front of him only, previously, it was given the data or data to the people. So we have to blame the fake astrologers, but not astrology. Why? When we do not know the basic principles of astrology, we used to believe each and every fake astrologer and come to confusion without getting conclusion and poisoning our mind into pollution. So, basing these, we should not come to conclude to say astrology is fake. So only I noticed so many people. That's why what I felt, I want to give you basic information about astrology. In this regard today, I took the subject of medical astrology. Through this, medical astrology means the astrology which helps us to get cured of our health and everything. How it influences on the planets, everything. Let us discuss in detail before that prayer. Jnananandamayam devam nirmalaspatikakritim Adharam sarva vidyanam hayagrevam upasmahe. The subject of astrology is very deep, wide and technical and requires a lifetime for its successful study. Yet it is fascinating enough for the common man. It is a basic principle of astrology, and we believe also of physical science to some extent, that all objects, whether animate or inanimate, exercise influence on other objects and are in turn influenced by them. It there follows that things take their shape after the cosmic pattern Yat Pinde Bratat Brahmande, means as above, so below, is a principle accepted by both spirituality and astrology. The moment a living being comes out of its mother's womb, it is stamped, as it were, by the cosmic influence at that very moment, in much the same way a photographic film exposed to a flash of light. Thus, the being born is imbued, means inspired or saturated with exactly the same qualities, good or bad or indifferent, as happen to exist in the cosmos, with reference to the place in which at the time at which the being is born. Based on the line of reasoning given above, it is our opinion that the moment of birth of a child is the moment of its coming out of its mother's womb, and as such this moment it should form the basis for the determination of the time elapsed between the sunrise and the moment of birth. This time is technically called Ishta in Indian astrology and is used to determine the ascendant. Now, therefore, if we are able to ascertain the good, bad and indifferent conditions existing in nature at the moment of birth, we would be able to find out the corresponding good, bad or indifferent traits and characteristics of the person born. It's a special prerogative of the science of astrology to study and describe the various traits and characteristics existing in nature under different conditions. During the course of a deep study of various aspects of nature, our ancient sages and saints classified the study of these aspects under the four main heads. It was their discovery that the nature of man follows the nature of the cosmos under these four heads. What are they? The planets, the signs, the stars, the houses. Now we have to get these descriptions in detail. That's all. We get basic knowledge in astrology. A brief description of these most important basic contents of the science of astrology is given for your benefit of the life. Even can students acquire knowledge, minimum basic one. Let us see the four in detail. What are the four? Planet, the signs, stars, houses. Let us go for first planets. Planets are generally those material bodies and they revolve around the sun. The planets are what? Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus and Saturn. Sun, around which the above six planets revolves, is thus strictly speaking not a planet but a star, which is for all practical purposes fixed in space, yet it is considered by astrology as a planet. For that reason, that in astrology, the geocentric position of planets is taken as a basis in order to arrive at their effects on the earth, and the sun has an apparent motion in the sky. Thus, there are planets, including the sun. The deep insight and practical observation of ancient sages of our land discovered the fact that Rahu and Ketu, which have no material bodies but are only shadows in space, they have a very profound, long lasting, and definite effect on all that exists on our planet. Because of their aforesaid actual and profound effect, Rahu and Ketu have also been considered as planets in spite of their shadowy nature. The discovery of zero in the domain of mathematics, we cannot deny the influence of shadows on life. Thus, we have in all 9 planets in India's astrology. Scientists in recent times have discovered 3 more planets, namely Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune. But these planets are so far away from the Earth, and their motions in which sign are so slow as not to make an appreciation difference to person born on the earth. They have therefore been excluded from the list of the planets for astrological purposes. Each of the above 9 planets incorporate in itself one or the other of these traits of all things, beings, situations, institutions, etc. in the world. Thus, each planet represents in a definite manner some good, bad, or indifferent traits, etc., and exerts to create or reproduce in the moon. We can see it there. Even it can reflect in man, woman, or being that it influences those traits. Thus, we have each planet as significator or karaka for different gunas, states, colors, directions, metals, limbs, relations, etc. Below are given some of the most important things, etc., for which each planet is significanter or karaka. Let us see. Sun. Second one. Stands for soul, self, father bone, aristocracy, fire, light, orange color, ruby, eastern direction, gold, belly, and old age. What about the moon? Mind. These words are why I am telling you. Each and every one can be explained later in due course. Mind is a root cause of the planet moon, like that. In the planet of moon, what the astrology gives us: mind, mother, queen, blood, self as lagna, eye, lungs, chest, masses, memory, emotions, and desires, white color, water, etc. It means, according to medical astrology, what are the parts are asserted in the planets? They are particularly meant for a particular planet. Each and every part of our body is mentioned in astrology according to the directions of the planets. Now, Mars. Mars gives us courage, pining spirit, real younger brothers, defense department of government, muscles, head, testicles, theft, injury, logic, marrow of the bone, love of violence, fire, quarrel, etc. What about the Mercury? Mercury gives the traits of speech, boy and boyhood, skin, trader, respiratory canal, intestines, green color, maternal uncles, consciousness, amusements, and northern direction. What about Jupiter? He gives wisdom, greatness, fat, enormity, liver, yellow color, son, elder brother, wealth, value, husband in a female nativity, feet, brighter, northern direction. The Venus. He is the root cause of giving us good wife, semen, face, neck, love, parts of body, courage, sex, urge, refined things and refined taste, love, sociability, collecting of things, music, southeastern directions. According to the planet Saturn, female, cold, impotent, stone, servant, low status, laboric, slow moments, obstacles, yogi, harsh speech, philosopher, black color, air nerves, iron, petrol, oil, etc. belongs to Saturn. The Rahu. The planet Rahu goes with the exception of the limbs of the body. Rahu has practically everything in common with Saturn. That's why they say Shanivat Rahu. What about the Ketu? With the exception of the limbs of the body, Ketu represents practically all the Mars represents. That's why the saying goes Kujavat Ketu. Now let us come for the signs, SIGNS. When occur ancient pioneers of the science of astrology critically examining the path to have an importance of its own in the field of astrology. They also observed that millions of stars and galaxies are influencing the zodiac. Now, since the zodiac is a fixed path in space and galaxies are also, for all our human purposes, fixed in space, it followed the zodiac exhibits is a fixed and permanent influence in its various parts. Thus, they classified the zodiacal effects of the basis of planets. Now, let us discuss about the third part is called the house. Just as there are 12 divisions of the zodiac, there are similarly 12 imaginary parts of the earth called house. Like the planets, the signs and the nakshatras, each house represents one or other of the traits in various fields of domains. The conception of 12 houses in an astounding and evolutionary conception. The basic idea behind the scientific sequence of the houses is the idea of human evolution. Now, come to detail of the 12 houses. First, genesis of the first house. The very first event in human life is the very birth of human beings. Everything also come afterwards. So, to link the first house with the first event in life is a tribute to the logical awareness of the rishis. In fact, each and everything, limb, situation which is being gets with or at birth is linked intimately to and represented by the first house. For example, a man always gets the color of his body, its stature, his features, his caste, such as Brahmin, Kshatriya, etc., right from birth. Similarly, his place of birth is also a factor at once determined by birth. Now, genesis of the second house. The foremost worldly thing that is the newly born baby needs in the world for its existence and survival is food and other material goods. This is the reason why the house of wealth comes immediately after the first house. Wealth is nothing but material goods, including food. Genesis of the third house. When a person continues to get after his birth the requisite food for some years, a time comes when he has to ensure the continued supply of wealth for his living. He has to exert and work for wealth as labor creates wealth. So labor comes immediately next to wealth. The third house of the house next to the second, therefore, denotes labor and allied subjects such as instruments of labor, namely the arms, etc. Now, let us go for genesis of the fourth house. No labor or work is possible where there is will, there is a way. Is a popular saying that confirms the same principle. Hence, in the evolutionary process, it was but natural to allot will and the allied desires and emotions to the fourth house of the planet, which comes immediately after the third house of labor and work. Now, genesis of the fifth house. Now, even if a person may have a good body, good wealth, second house says no, and plenty of power to work, and a good measure of will and desire to work. If he lacks the know-how or knowledge about his business in life, it is evident he will fail in all fields of life. That's why, thus, it is only knowledge that can give a purpose and direction to the desires of men. For the reason knowledge and intellectual have been allotted to the house immediately following the house of the desires. Now, Genesis of the sixth house. Now, if a person is endowed with good physique, ample money, labor or earning money, will to work for life, but if he has had no actual experience of hurdles and obstacles of life, if he cannot face difficult and inimical situations with confidence, he is still apt to be a failure in life. Now, Genesis of the seventh house. A man can overcome obstacles, etc., when apart from wealth, power to work, will work intelligence and power to subdue his enemies. He has abundant vitality and vigor. For the reason that seventh house of Virya, vitality and vigor, and of such allied subjects as sex, sexual organs, comes in evolutionary sequence next to the sixth. Now, Genesis of the eighth house. Of what avail are wealth, labor, will to work, intellect, power to overcome enemies, and even power of Virya or semen, if one is denied longevity of life? Hence, it is longevity that is source of real strength. That is the reason why longevity is associated with the eighth house. Allied subjects such as the mode of death, etc., are also considered from the eighth house only. Why meant for eighth house? Now you might have understood now. Now let us come for ninth house. According to the injunctions of religion, human body, along with all its equipments, health, wealth, labor, will, intellect, prestige, strength, and even long life is, after all, for our spiritual uplift. For spiritual and moral life alone assures longevity, etc. Hence, it is but logical to allot ninth house or to religion, higher thought, etc. Now, the tenth house. A high moral life is not possible without moral deeds. Thus, moral deeds are seen and examined from the tenth house, is thus most appropriately called the house of karma, means good moral deeds. Genesis of the 11th house. When good and meritorious deeds reach their climax, a man acquires the habit of doing good instinctively. He then reaches the stages of the selfless. Thus, acquired virtue, the state of good for goodness sake, is represented by the 11th house, as selflessness is essential to do good karma. Thus, the 11th house is one of the selfless work and fully acquired virtue. It is for that reason also called the house of acquisition. Now, Genesis of the 12th house. Only the liberated soul is capable really and fully to act in selfless manner. Hence, the liberated condition is essential in the evolutionary setup for continuance of a state or selfless existence. Thus, liberation or moksha is assigned to the very last house, being the culmination of human evolution. We see that the scheme under which various traits are allotted to different houses is not an arbitrary one, but is evolutionary in character and follows a logical sequence necessitated by the condition of human existence and its progress from one stage to another in its upward march towards moksham, liberation. Some below are given some of the various traits, things, attributes which have been allotted to various houses. Fourth one. Let us see the detailed history of first house. It is also called Lagna or ascendant. All things relating to birth conditions and environment at time and birth, such as color of body, stature of body as a whole, disease, fame, ruling, progress, wealth, and brain. Second house. The second house is called house of wealth. Through this house, wealth, family, elder brothers and sisters of mother, speech, face, death, inflicting period in life, son of aristocrats, princes, ruling powers, the assembly, etc. The third house, it is also called in different ways of called house of brothers. Brothers mean younger brothers or elder brothers, friends, neighbors, small journeys, tours, deliberate, self, activity, arms, respiratory canal, courage, labor, defense, deportment of longevity. Fourth house, it is also called house of mother. They gave title. The fourth house is called mother of house. Mother of birth, residence of property, nadir, low level life, masses, conveyance, mind, country, emotions. Fifth house is called house of education. In the fifth house we can understand the person's educational life. Not only education, what are they in the fifth house? Education, progeny male or female, pregnancy, acumen, intellect, advisory capacity, the deity. One is devoted to complective examinations, business of satta or speculation, future lady love, cinema house, husband of elder sister, belly and heart. Sixth house. Sixth house is called the house of enemies. Enmity, injury, disease, death, hurdles, death, calamities, maternal uncles, younger brother to mother, intestines, foreign elements. Seventh house, also called the house of wife. Wife, sex urges, sexual organs, semen, marriage, roadside, effort, courage, trade, and partners in business. Eighth house is also called house of death. Death, longevity, insult, cause of death, sin, serious disease, foreign travel, great loss, antiquities, scrotum, great loss, wife of the elder brother to mother. Ninth house called house of religion. Religion, father, paternal property, luck, favor from government and its officials, religious deeds, son, hips, education, spirituality, wife of younger brother, high thinking, etc. 10th house. It is also called the house of karma. Good and bad karmas, government, professions, wealth of father, the king, fame, name, ruling powers, height and knees. 11th house. It is also called house of income. Income flowing in of the things, elder brother and sisters, highest one. Sometimes you can measure height or lower portion of legs. Wife of son, husband of daughter, injury, disease, selfless work, and also acquisition. The house of the 12th is called house of expense. Expenses, feet, moksha, waste, eye, sleep, separation, enjoyment, wife of younger brother to mother, pleasures of the bed, imprisonment, defense, department. Disease, curable and incurable. According to medical astrology, what are they? Diseases are two types. One that gives trouble for a long time and the other which lasts for a while. But both the types of diseases can be instrumental in ending life. Planets that represent long duration such as Saturn and Rahu, when involved as factors causing disease, the trouble lasts long for months and years. planets that represent short duration such as Mercury, Mars, etc., when entailing in comparatively lesser time. Another, according to medical astrology, when Rahu and Ketu afflict any one limb, particularly Leo, they give sudden and unexpected trouble. Another, Mercury, Lord of the first, third, and eighth house, heavily afflicted by Mars and Rahu, etc., gives many a times ultimately death. Good, honest, moral life prolongs life, which dishonest, immoral life shortens it. In this way, we can find various things in medical astrology. I think I told only basic principles, not an elaborated study. So watch it and understand yourself. Srikanthaya Kalyananidam Sri Venkatanivasaaya Srinivasaya Mangalam Mangala Shasnavare Mudacharya Purogamai Sarvaisha Purve Acharya Satkritaya Stu Mangalam.